Hey guys, we got early access to the show this morning. Let's take a walk around this car and I can tell you a little bit more about it. So first let's take a look at this window sticker slash options list here that I made up for the show. I don't have the original window sticker that came with the car, so I kind of made this up just to give you an idea of what comes with the car and the accessories we put on it. So as equipped, this car would have come with the 260 V8, 4-speed manual top loader transmission, and the GT style doors. Factory accessories, hardtop, which is not here, sun visors, which would have been white, cigar lighter or cigarette lighter, clock and ammeter, and then some of the LAT options which are listed here. What these options are, these were manufactured up by Shelby, and he had a full line of options that was available for the Cobras back in the day. And LAT was like a subsidiary company that was created, which stood for Los Angeles Tiger. And what they did is they used the same parts to manufacture for the Cobra, the engine dress-up kit, and all the accessories. They just scrubbed out the Cobra name and inserted Tiger for those same parts because they were pretty much interchangeable. And then going down the list here, you can just kind of pause at. These are the build specs of everything I put on the car in addition to it. Also, with this car, what's unique about this one, this was a crossover body, and some of the crossover bodies, they're very rare to come into the U.S. There are a fair few of them that made it here in the left-hand drive. Most of them were right-hand drives, European destinations, mostly England and South Africa. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that difference is first. So one of the first crossover changes was square corner doors in the rear here. The front remained square, but the back they changed this. On the early cars, they more of a rounded corner here, and then also down in this area here. Probably a little bit more time consuming to make from the factory, and this is probably more economically efficient to build it this way. And then looking at the hood area, you can see here they squared out this corner. The earlier cars would have been rounded right here, and all the later models right to the end of the series would have been square corner. Also leaded seam here in the early cars. They chose not to lead in these seams here. I kind of like it there. It helps out with the paint. Usually if you have a leaded area here, eventually you get some cracking in the paint. This is an area which you can get some ability to expand and contract there. So if the paint cracks, it would be in this area. So next would have been the square corners in the trunk area. This particular car remained with an early trunk with the rounded corner down here and rounded upper corners, but the later model cars would have all been square cornered in this back section right here. So this particular crossover, this came with the GT door style, which is embossed lines here, and this top finishing rail. We call this a waist roll, or like a garnishing rail type trim on there. Earlier cars, this just would have been one piece smooth, and then you would have had the red body steel around there with no finishing trim there. Also, what's unique about this car is a early regulator. So in this car, the window crank is lower. Later cars with the GT panels, they actually raise this up for a little bit more comfort inside. For knee clearance, as you're winding it around, you get a little bit of space to clear the knee. So we got later door panels with early regulators, very rare. And then probably one of the most significant parts of the crossover series was this hard boot area. So what happened in the later models, they eliminated the hard boot section, which would have been these flip down lids here, and then they upholstered this area back here, so it was more of a soft boot area. I'm kind of partial to the metal lid there. Finishes out nice with the striping, and it seems to look real clean back there. But either way, all Tigers, in my opinion, are a little bit special, especially if they've survived. But yeah, on the crossover cars, you'll see these. On the later models, this would have been eliminated. One of my favorite options of the LAT option list would have been this fiberglass hood. So this was made for warm weather climate Tigers. You got a fresh air intake up front, almost like a ram air setup, and then you can see the cornered scoops out the back there. This allowed for some of the hot air that get trapped underneath to make its way out. But real beautiful design by LAT for the Tigers here. And then the last thing that's unique to the crossover bodies for this car would be the left-hand drive configuration. So most of the crossover bodies would have been right-hand drive, ended up in England or South Africa. But this particular one somehow made it into the U.S. with a left-hand drive configuration and survived the test of time. And then moving into the LAT options or the LAT options. So one of the options on this car would be the engine dress-up kit, which is LAT option number 2. That would be a chrome top air cleaner. However, they didn't have the chrome base unit to go with it. It was just a chrome lid. Also, they had a chrome, I believe it was a air breather cap here. This is an Edelbrock. They had the Tiger valve covers. Originally, this would have been Cobra in here, powered by Ford. They scrubbed that out and went with the Tiger here, and then a chrome radiator cap. So one more option for the LAT option list would have been an 8,000 RPM tach. So what I did is I was able to acquire a decal for the face of it several years ago. Almost 15 years ago this decal was made up. I sent it into MoMA to have it calibrated, and they applied the decal there. So we have a calibrated 8,000 RPM Jaeger tach. Now I'm not sure what particular tach, and we have to leave that up to the Tiger historians, that they actually used for the LAT. Some guys are saying there was an MG 8,000 RPM Smith's gauge, but this particular one is a Jaeger and matches real well with the rest of the instrumentation. So one of the first options was an engine performance tune-up package, and part of that would have been an Edelbrock F4B manifold. This particular one is a dual plane manifold. I'm not quite sure, but I think the original first ones that came out would have been a quad port configuration. Also, they came with a Holley 4-barrel. This particular carburation setup here is a Demon carburetor with a 650 CFM and electric choke. And then looking down inside here, we can see how tight everything got. Amazing how they fit everything in there with this V8, but they managed to get it in there. These are replica headers of the original LAT option headers, and jet coated. And then just kind of briefly going over the engine that's sitting in here. So I still have the 260 that came with the car, although the block that we're running in here is a 289 block. The difference between the 289 and the 260 is that the 289 would have been a 4-inch bore, and the 260 would have been a 3 3/4 inch bore. This particular one, early period 289, and the serial numbers actually cross-reference with some of the early K blocks, which they selected out to use for the performance Mustangs and some of the Cobras. So the historians would be able to define that a lot better than I would. But we're running an early 5-bolt 289 block. And also high-performance AFR aluminum heads. Those seem to run real cool and are lightweight with our 650 Demon on there. Internally, we're running a SCAT 302 crank and rods, flywheel, McLeod pressure plate, and disc for clutch. Everything seems to work real well together. Balanced out SRP pistons and full roller rocker. And then just briefly panning through the interior here. So I've gone with a koa wood dashboard, and the reason I went with koa wood, I actually made this one myself. It has kind of a tiger striping appearance to it, so I thought that would be kind of cool to give it a tiger feel. And then also I used a tiger type material lining in the glove box and a couple of areas throughout the car just to give it more of a tiger appearance. And then also down here just a little bit just to set it off and give it some spark and tie the whole theme together. Closer look at our glove box here. And this car, the early cars would have come with a short shifter. They had a couple different lengths of shifters for the Tigers. Early cars would have been shorter, and the later models a little bit taller. But the reverse lockout looks kind of cool on these. And also a little bit of tiger striping underneath there, just real subtle. And then when I acquired this car actually came with this roll bar. I've seen a few different configurations of roll bars to go with the Tigers. I like this one because of the back lean to it. It's got a little bit of a backwards lean to it. Also fits really well inside the soft top. You drop down our boot here, pull the soft top up over it, and it actually clears, and you can use a soft top with it. And also our hard top will clear that. So when we put our hard top on there, look inside, see that roll bar, looks very cool. And I'm looking underneath at our mufflers here, so I'm running Thrush high polished stainless steel mufflers. They sound really, really nice. I've got a finned aluminum differential cover, running Coney adjustable shocks, and then also one of the other lat options would have been bolt-on traction masters. These are the bolt-on style. They also had a weld-on style, but I'm running the bolt-ons on this one. And then for the tailpipes, I'm running 2-inch slash tips there, stainless steel. And configuration would have been stock in appearance there, using its stock type mounts with rubber mounts there. And then also a slight up on the angle there, fairly tight to the body with a little bit of clearance. Would have been the way they would have come from the factory. Some of the Tigers you'll see they exit out the back either straight or slightly downwards, but originally they would have had a slight upwards direction to them. And then one other item I added to the exhaust just for fun, some exhaust side cutouts there so you can uncap the exhaust and run open exhaust. Although there's not too many places you can do that, but I will be taking these off here for the end of the show and running into the Sema ignited party with open exhaust. That should be real fun. Try and get some video of that, and hopefully the sound comes through. And then up front here are jet coated headers coming out the rear there through the body, and then off to our side outs. And then some Tiger trivia. A lot of people don't realize that the Tiger was actually conceived of by a guy by the name of Ken Miles, and also his friend Ian Garrett, or Gerard, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that name. But Ken Miles was a driver for Shelby back in those days. Really, really good driver. And you're going to find out a little bit more about him next week when the movie Ford versus Ferrari comes out. It's really a life story about Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby. But what had happened is Ken and Ian were out having some beers one night, talking about the success Cobra was having on the racing circuit. And Ian was the West Coast sales manager for Roots Group at that time, which is now defunct. But Ian and Ken thought maybe they could come up with a Alpine version of the Cobra and present it to Shelby. Maybe he could engineer something there. So what had happened, they managed to approve some funding through Coventry in England to get the prototype built. And but Shelby was actually kind of backed up in the shop at that time. So Ken decided in his garage he was going to make his version of what they thought a Tiger should be. So Ken Miles actually built the very first Tiger prototype. That car still exists today somewhere. That particular one was set up with an automatic transmission, but Ken was actually responsible for the birth of the Tiger. Carroll Shelby eventually did the prototype that they went with, and the cars were not built out at Shelby American. They were actually built at the Jensen plant in England. For some reason, the guys over at Roots Group didn't feel that the relationship with Shelby and Ford was going to be beneficial to have them built in America, so they went with the England build. But yeah, this is all Shelby engineered design in here. Ken was one of the first instigators of the Tiger and built the very first prototype. So there's some of the history on the Tiger. So first came Cobra and then the Tiger, and really not too far apart back in those days. Tiger actually sold much more successfully than the Cobra for the term that it was manufactured. I think they sold just a notch under 1,000 units of original Cobras, and they sold just slightly over 7,000 Tigers before it was taken over by Chrysler. And then a couple autographs here on the cowl. So this one here is from Carroll Shelby, and how I got this one. So I was trying to get the car finished up back in 2006, get it on the road. They had a Shelby only event out at the racetrack and Fremont Street Experience. So trying to get the car ready, go hang out with the Shelby guys. I thought that'd be real cool, and hang out with them, get some pictures. So So we had the car down on Fremont Street. They were having a People's Choice ballot down there I wasn't really aware of. And then next day out at the track, they were having a concourse. But coincidentally, we actually won the People's Choice Award for Fremont Street, and then also Best of Show for the event. So yeah, real lucky first time out. And then this autograph here, real special. Friend of mine also, Mr. Pete Brock. Pete also lives in Henderson and is still very active in the car world. Has a very, very successful custom car trailer company. Also ran into Pete here at the show earlier. So I acquired this particular autograph right after the last SEMA event. He was hanging out at a Cars and Coffee, so he autographed it there. Also, Pete, I believe, was the very first employee for Carroll Shelby back in the day, and also is the designer of the Shelby Daytona Coupe, which beat Ferrari, which we'll see here in the upcoming movie Ford versus Ferrari. So this particular autograph, real special for me. So I would like to give out a really big thank you to Gold Eagle for having us back this year and displaying this car in the 303 booth. Take a look at some of their lineup here, just making all kinds of new products, virtually everything you need to keep your car in top condition. I had an early interview with Matthew Banach. Matthew is a senior marketing director for Gold Eagle. Unfortunately, had some problems with that first part of the clip. Let's take a look at the second part of the clip, and Matthew can explain a little bit more about these products and show you how they work.
So 303 products founded in 1980. This is our line of automotive products. What we have here, our original product is the Protectant.
Okay, I use this one a lot, especially on my daily driver.
Vinyl rubber plastic convertible top, that's what you want to use. Speed detailer for the paint, quick wipe downs. We're wiping your car down constantly.
This one I like because it doesn't have a super glossy feeling to it. When you put it on, it's kind of a matte finish. Just a real nice OEM feel to it.
It's water-based too.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So I use that a lot of outside stuff. So when I wash the car, it comes off nicely and reapplies nicely.
Detailer is for wiping down outside paint, dust, light contaminants, taking that off.
This is for wetting the surface.
Spray the surface down and wipe it off just so you don't mar the surface with dust or dirt that might be on there here at a car show or here or anywhere else.
Any kind of a sealant or
it leaves a light protective layer, UV protection that's in it, and it's light protective layer. It doesn't last all that long, but enough. A few days to be washed. It rinses off in the rain or washing. It lasts a little while.
Anything else I see here? I'm noticing some of these polishes underneath.
Yeah, so new products. New products, we are a 3-step compound polishing system. So for depending on the type of paint, we actually have pads that go with it that match the colors of the labels. But for sanding or if you're color sanding and buffing a car, it takes out all the different levels of scratches for that. And then if you're really crazy, you get the finishing polish to get that last level of shine out of it. New items, show car wax. So that's
I want to try that one.
That's a Carnauba synthetic blend. It's kind of oily, so it fills in imperfection, so it's good for shows.
Okay. Nice shine with it.
Oh, it's awesome.
And then how long would this last? If I apply this, it goes about how long?
Between 30 and 60 days, depending on how much it's out. It's more of an old school wax. It's like makes the car look really shiny.
All right. And then I see you got some tire coating now.
Yeah, we've got a couple different levels of tires. So aerosol, more of a satin finish. Okay. High gloss, so really like shiny.
This would be important, particularly at a concourse, because they don't really like super dripping wet tires. Even though it looks really cool, they take points off you for that. So the tires either look black, but they can't run them and have any kind of.
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
It's another water-based thing, so especially cars you don't drive all the time, you don't want to use petroleum-based stuff on the tires. That actually degrades the tires faster, so it's all water-based.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure working with you, man.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks for showing us your line. All right, guys, let's go check out some more SEMA. And a really big thank you to Gold Eagle Company for having us back this year and giving us the opportunity to show this car and talk a little bit about it and display it in their beautiful booth here at 303. So thank you, Matthew, for inviting us back, Debbie, for all your hard work putting everything together for the event, and a special thanks to Leroy, who spent the last 4 days walking around this car with a polishing rag and keeping her nice and clean and safe. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.